Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Ashley Oswald, the founder of Oswald Digestive Clinic, and this week is a National Infertility Awareness Week. So I wanted to bring on my friend and colleague, Eleni, to talk more about PCOS, which PCOS is one of the possible root causes to having a difficult time getting pregnant to infertility. And Eleni has her own story of how she recovered from PCOS, how she got through it, what she did, and she is now a dietitian, and her whole mission and passion is helping other women to improve their PCOS. So I'm so excited to be able to talk with Eleni today. Eleni, can you tell us a bit about yourself, and then I'd love to just kind of dive into your story.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. So just tell you a little bit more about my story. It's kind of interesting. I wouldn't tell anybody this story for so long because I think PCOS is totally an emotional and physical journey. But now I'm super happy to share with it and tell women that there are tools to better manage your PCOS. So around 14, I started getting some symptoms of PCOS. First thing I noticed was excess hair growth in places that you wouldn't want it as a teenager. So that was a red flag. A lot of my doctors were like, well, you're Mediterranean, you're just a little hairy in general. And I was like, that's not it. And then I started losing head hair. My cycles became irregular. Metabolically, I was visiting endocrinologists. And I was leaning towards insulin resistance, but I was never really overweight. So I didn't get that excess weight that a lot of women with PCOS get, but I definitely felt it, when your body just feels like it's attacking you or it's against you. That's literally what it felt like. And I think having those physical symptoms, that endocrine imbalance, I also started to get IBS. My thyroid started to get off. I was on all these medications. And so naturally, just this anxiety came up, these bouts of depression. And we also know that women with PCOS tend to have more mood swings because your hormones are off. So not only I think the emotional journey creates that, but also that hormonal imbalance. So pretty much had a lot of the symptoms that are typical of PCOS. And all my doctors really gave me were medications. So I was on birth control, spironolactone, metformin, anxiety medication, some thyroid medication. So 5 medications by the age of 20. And I just felt like I was surviving every day, but not really thriving. I also had gynecologists tell me if you ever do want to get pregnant down the road, it's probably going to be really hard and really stressful. And that's just scary. You think you go to the doctor for help. And I think it created just a lot of fear. And so intuitively, I knew that there had to be an approach. I felt like I was a relatively healthy child growing up. I had a lot of support from my family. They were really holistic and healthy. And so I said, okay, there's got to be, what is the root cause, right? I think that's why we're all really curious when it comes to integrative and holistic medicine. There's something going on. So I addressed the insulin resistance. I used nutrition. I got really focused on a low glycemic eating approach, used tons of stress management just to cope with the current symptoms, knowing that it would take time to overcome them, and worked on my gut too. And so through all of this and finding some good guides as well throughout my journey, I was able to heal my body. I'm not on any medications. My hormones are balanced. I don't go to the doctors with PCOS on my medical chart. I don't want to say I completely reversed it. Maybe that's not possible for everybody, but I got to the point where I managed my symptoms that it was basically gone. It's not my identity anymore. And so being a dietitian, I knew I had this scientific approach to help other women. I had tools. I've lived it. I've felt it. So it's all my heart and soul goes into helping these women so they never have to feel like that for years on end. So that's my story. It was kind of long-winded, but just want women to know that you're not alone and there can be so many symptoms that come with PCOS.
Oh, and there's hope still, and we
So much hope.
working and seeing conventional medicine, which is amazing for certain things. If you get in a car accident, if you have an acute issue, but really for these chronic issues, it is so lacking in so many resources and knowledge that we have access to. in more of an outpatient, like the functional medicine world. And so how long, Eleni, were you struggling with this before you started to realize that there's a different path that you can go down that might help?
I would say it was probably a solid 4 years of just depending on my prescription medications and saying, okay, that helped with the symptoms and just trying to live my life. But I think there was like this nudge from like deep within me saying, you have to work a little harder. There's something else. But then it was a total of almost 8 years of, then another 4 years of healing my body because I let it persist instead of addressing it right away. But I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and it's all a journey to get to those root
Mm-hmm.
causes, and everything
Mm-hmm.
kind of works off of each other. And I mean, amazing that you were able to get processes in alignment and get off of 5 medications. You're not on 80
Mm-hmm.
medications now, and I know that
Yeah,
that's not possible, like you said, for some people, but there's so much more possibility with it. And I think people realize if we can just address those root causes and then work with the doctor to safely taper down.
exactly. And it's definitely a lifestyle, right? It's not like I worked really hard and then I go crazy and do all these wild things like stress management, watching certain food consumption, sleep, all these things are still important, but then it becomes fun. It becomes intuitive. It doesn't feel like work because you're just so happy to have your health back and your life back, right?
Oh my gosh, that's so inspiring. So why
Mhm.
don't we dive into why those things help? Do you mind kind of explaining, Eleni, why, what even is insulin? What is fasting insulin? How do our listeners go about even looking into that? How do they know if theirs is normal or not? And then how do you fix it if it's not normal?
So when we look at PCOS in general, it's a metabolic issue. So it means that the blood sugar, the insulin, a hormone that is incredibly important in terms of the function and balance of your other hormones need to be in balance. But oftentimes when it's PCOS, it's leaning towards that insulin resistant state. So your fasting insulin is not at a normal level. You can get this checked by your doctor. They can do that as well. And you can even get home kits to do this. And I know Ashley has some really great resources for that. So I'll definitely let you share about that. But when we look at this insulin resistant state, we are seeing different types of symptoms. It's causing so much inflammation in the body that we're seeing testosterone is being produced by the ovaries. So that's why we get more acne, more hair growth, our head hair might fall out. You get irregular periods. You have weight gain. Even if you are trying to eat healthy, you're not losing weight because your blood sugar, your fasting blood sugar, and your fasting insulin are not in balance. So we get this cascade, this hormonal response. We also know that with PCOS, this is a little bit newer research, but it makes sense that because of this cascade of inflammation, we're seeing this leaky gut or this dysbiosis in the microbiome. Women with PCOS actually have an imbalanced microbiome, and Ashley's going to go more in depth in this because she's the gut expert, but it is a total body system syndrome, really. And at the root of it all, it is metabolic imbalance. If that's the one thing you can remember, it's learning to control your blood sugar and your insulin. And then the body will just slowly start to respond in a positive way.
Oh, it's just fascinating as we're learning how the gut really is at the center of health and what we're learning about
Mm-hmm.
how the gut influences the insulin and how to kind of like connect some of these dots for people. Diabetes, so fasting insulin is a precursor to type 2 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And so fasting insulin, that lab, it's not commonly checked. You usually have to ask for it or you have to get it for yourself, like through direct labs. You can order, get the result, and then of course share it with your healthcare providers. But it's a more sensitive way just to see what direction you're trending in. And certainly checking a hemoglobin A1C as well, which is you can think of
Mm-hmm.
as the average blood sugar over the past 3 months, can really give some more clues to it. And so gut bacteria, this dysbiosis, that can mean some different things with the gut. Most of our microbiota are bacteria and fungi and these viruses. They should be in the large intestine. So one thing that can happen is either somebody might have too much of these bad bugs or
Mm-hmm.
too little of the good bugs, not enough diversity, which we believe that diversity is really tied to decreased chronic health issues. And then another thing that can be decently common is most of our microbiota should be in our large intestine. But if that gets up into our small intestine and somebody's struggling with a bacteria or a fungus overgrowth, that can contribute to other issues downstream. Like it can cause more of that inflammation in the gut lining. It can contribute to nutrient deficiencies, which, Lenny, can you tell us a little bit then? So it's all full circle, right, guys? So that these nutrient deficiencies, like for example, chromium, can actually make it harder to keep blood sugars balanced, which then can tie back to the PCOS.
Absolutely. And some other big nutritional deficiencies that I see with PCOS are B vitamins, magnesium, and these can be depleted by birth control because a lot of women who are on birth control, it's to help manage their PCOS. It's okay, right? Sometimes we really need that. But magnesium and B vitamins play a big role in your metabolism and your blood sugar regulation as well. And so I know we both run that micronutrient panel, and you can see metabolically what's really going on. And is the gut not absorbing it? And then how is that affecting your ability to balance your blood sugar and insulin?
Oh my gosh. And I wish that was standard of care. I wish everybody was getting these micronutrients checked like once a year. Don't you, Eleni?
Oh, I tell my clients, I'm hoping one day they'll advocate when they go to their doctor. I said, I hope this becomes part of your like annual visit someday. So I do advocate for them to come back, even if we're done working together, just come get a test. Like I do that every year too, really important. So maybe down the road when we're a little older, this will be normal.
Yeah. But at least you guys do have access to me and Eleni right now. So reach out to us on Instagram if you think this is something that can help you, and we'll work with you to find a way to help you get that done. So should we jump in and talk about some kind of practical things that people can do to help with this insulin?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to go through 3 simple tips. There's so much we can like nerd out on about this metabolically, but I want to help you leave this video and feel like, okay, I can go do this right now. So one thing nutrition wise is to really focus on adding good, healthy fats and protein at every single meal. What I typically suggest for women with PCOS is really incorporate some animal protein. Eating a lot of vegetables is amazing, but to balance the blood sugar, if you're eating too many beans, legumes, and grains, it's going to be hard to see those symptoms come into balance. And we definitely want to incorporate some good healthy fats, avocados, nut butters, good olive oil, a good piece of salmon, because fats help to produce our cholesterol, and cholesterol is not bad. Cholesterol actually helps us to form our hormones. And we want our hormones to run efficiently, especially our estrogen, our progesterone. We want those super balanced. And then my last tip is kind of tying back to that micronutrient piece is if you've done these other things and you're still wondering why it's not working, maybe you need to dig a little bit deeper and see what's going on in that micronutrient status. But diet and lifestyle, go for finding more balance at your meals, and even walking after your meals for 10 to 15 minutes can help to regulate your blood sugar and insulin levels. I know that sounds super simple, but they've done studies on people that eat rice and then they go take a walk, and it's helped with their long-term blood sugar and insulin levels. So just take a 10 to 15 minute walk after each meal if you can. So just a few tips right there.
Those are such good tips. And a great thing about adding in vegetables too is that you're going to get some of this resistant starch in these prebiotics, which your bacteria in your gut then will ferment and create these short chain fatty acids. Like the most notable is butyrate. And this butyrate has really powerful anti-inflammatory benefits for the immune system, and then helping to go up and heal that gut lining as well, because it's really the main fuel for those cells on your gut lining. And so you're kind of getting double whammy when you're incorporating more vegetables. And Eleni and I actually know each other from some work we did with Cornell in New York City, where it was a lot of this conversation too, balancing blood sugars. And the company we were contracting with, their whole goal is to help people with weight loss. And this is a huge component for weight loss too. And something that came out of their research is eating the protein before the carbohydrates as well, to further help balance out that insulin in the blood sugar.
Yep.
So thank you so much, Eleni. Those are great tips. And if you want to connect with us after, if you're a woman, you're struggling with PCOS right now, Eleni is your girl. So connect with her on Instagram. And then, of course, if you're interested in working with Oswald Digestive Clinic, I am always here for you as well. Do you have anything, any last things that you want to add, Eleni?
No, it was a great video. I hope it was informative. I think the more, I so appreciate you having me on here, because the more women we can reach, the better, because I know there are women out there that feel so alone. I talk to them all the time, you know, where they feel like they're the only ones with these symptoms and they're not getting the care they need. So please reach out if you just have a question, direct message me, or send me a message in any way that I can, because I just want to help. So
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing all your knowledge.
all right,
All
bye.
right, bye guys.